Hello and welcome to this video on basic research in science. Basic research is probably not a term you have heard, but it is necessary. This is also known as pure research and fundamental research. Basic research is used to improve or proof the theories underlying all other research that follows. It is like trying to understand how things work. Imagine trying to create a novel discovery or find something without a reliable or effective method. Basic research can go for something as simple as identifying how a single gene relates to a pathology, or how certain diseases can be affected by different genes in different ways. It could be chemical reactions that occur in one way are reversible in more. It's almost always going to be some sort of cause and effect relationship, understanding the mechanisms behind the function of different things. It is a case of going for the simplest explanation first, finding the most fundamental system, and then using that to construct more complex systems out of the individual fundamental basic systems. This is distinct from applied research, which tries to use this research in a way that produces outcomes from basic research. Think of how you know that boiling water makes it safe. Then understand why this makes it safe. Now you can apply this research in an autoclave to sterilize other things that don't require boiling necessarily. Since basic research operates on a very fundamental level, it's often viewed as inferior to translational or clinical research. And this isn't necessarily the case. One of the reasons this particular view is held is that most basic research is funded by the government. The fact that there is no great effort by industry to pay for basic research is one of the reasons why it is often seen as ineffectual or frivolous, that the public is paying for research into something that's not necessary. And that's an issue that is going to grow in coming years, primarily because governments are decreasingly looking to fund basic research. Governments, universities, research institutes, and so on are increasingly looking for ways to take research that's being conducted and use it in a commercial way, or find a way to translate this research into something more significant. Grant applications are particularly notorious for wanting to know how research being done can be applied in a more significant way. This means that basic research has to have immediate implications for translational research. Since it's so hard to get funding without an obvious application for basic research, this contributes to the decreasing appeal for it in academic circles. The problem with this point of view is that almost nothing in science now is discovered by a single individual or single research team. It's a conglomeration of research across multiple researchers, institutes, teams, and so on, more often than not across many years. It starts with basic research. For example, finding ways to create viable and effective methodologies that can then be used to create more complex experiments. More complex experiments then find their way into larger projects. These larger projects oftentimes are not even identifying the final translational research, but instead creating one particular element of it. These are then combined with multiple other projects to create the final translational research. Understand that this can take multiple very basic research projects spanning years to finally achieve even the initial steps. One of the best reasons for basic research is that it is inherent in its nature. You are looking at the very basic fabric. You are nearly always going to find something novel. Novelty means publication, but also it means citations. If you can find something that is unique and new, then it has the ability to impact research for years to come. Understand that something at a fundamental level, such as DNA or a chemical reaction, can have effects at a much higher level simply by carrying through that one small change to a huge outcome in the end. We see this with a number of diseases in the human body. You can also see this with some chemical reactions that occur on a daily basis. The more important part is that if you are identifying something that is counterintuitive or illogical, understanding why that happens and how is more important than being able to translate it later on. If you can see that something is happening at a higher level and you can't figure out what's happening at the very lowest levels of the exercise, then you simply can't do anything about it. By conducting basic research, we're able to gradually but surely figure out the layers of complexity to a problem. Consider this simple example: 1 + 1 = 2. Knowing that this simple equation can be used allows you to then apply it to more complex equations. You can then modify it slightly by using multiplication or division. You could inverse it and create 1 - 1. Once you understand these 4 formulae, you can then move on to something even more complex, such as basic algebra. And so you see how you can begin layering these complexities very quickly. And that is how we begin to get into things like complex coding, statistical modeling, and so on. Things that, if we didn't understand the basics, would very quickly be impossible. You can only achieve so much with leaps in logic. Jumping over those chasms that are made of ignorance is only possible when you have something to start from, a launching pad of sorts, and that is what basic research is. The start point for future research and the foundation for our current research. It gives us the knowledge to approach problems with sound, proven methodologies. It gives us the means to understand what we're seeing and why we're seeing it. Remember, in science, theoretically, everything should have a cause and effect that can be elucidated. It may take time, but we need the knowledge to be able to do that, and we can't do that without basic research. Thank you for watching this video. If you have found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions below.